Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Minnesota RØKKR co-stream. We're back for 2 days in a row.
Let's
Icon, this hasn't
go.
happened since like a major, right? Like our schedule's a little funky here in stage
I'm
4.
pumped. Let's do it every day.
Dude, yeah, why not? F it. RØKKR plays every day. Lord knows we need the points, man. We gotta stay in this top 8, climb in the top 6, claw our way into the top 4, hit number 1 before champs. We can do this,
Here we
Icon.
go.
I'm
Love
drinking the
it.
purple Kool-Aid. Yes, we're coming off an ugly 3-0 loss yesterday to Optic Chicago, but Optic Chicago's been looking really good. They looked really good at stage 3 major. And now, I mean, honestly, we were talking a little bit about it on the co-stream yesterday, but a hard loss like that yesterday, you turn around, you have to play the next day. But if you're looking at, you got Paris, and you can't underestimate anybody, but if there's going to be a rebound day, you're hoping that it's today versus Paris. What do you think the guys need to do, like to just shrug off yesterday and come in and fry today?
Yeah, I think you actually just said it. I think you just shrug it off and it is what it is. I don't think that there's necessarily too much that you have to change. Like you also mentioned, Optic has been playing super well. There was that point in stage 3 where it looked like they just couldn't figure out their respawns. They had lost like 7 or 8 hard points in a row. And then they got to the stage 3 major and everything turned around for them. So let's not kind of just think of yesterday's loss as a fact that, we lost to one of the worst teams. I mean, Optic could very well be the second best, third best. I mean, they're definitely right up there in the top 3 or 4. So that match yesterday didn't go great. There were some ups, right? That map 1, that Moscow hardpoint, Minnesota almost came back and stole that map 1. And if that happens, who knows how the rest of the series plays out. But I just think that, they ran into an Optic team that's really hot. It's like if you run into an Atlanta FaZe, which Minnesota will play later on this stage. Some teams are just hot and some teams, are a little bit easier to beat. And this match today is a match where you have to come out and win because we've talked about it time and time again. When it comes to your group, you have to beat those teams that are considered to be beneath you. Right now, Minnesota's 0-1, Paris is 0-1. This is one that you absolutely have to get. If you don't get this match today, then you have to beat Atlanta, you have to beat LA Thieves, and you have to beat Seattle. So the ticket normally is to get 3 wins. So if you don't win today, that gets much more difficult.
Yeah, you don't want to make things harder on yourself, right? Like we've done that before. We've been there before. Starting 0-2 in groups. You don't want to be in that spot where you're just having to fight from the bottom and try to claw your way back in to the winner's bracket. Because as you guys know, the top 3 from each group go into the upper bracket or the winner's bracket, where they will be able to lose a game, go to the lower bracket. But if you place bottom 3 in your group, you end up in the lower bracket, and it gets tough. You go to the major and you can't lose. And I'll tell you what, man, the next major, stage 4 major, is on LAN, local area network, baby.
Let's go.
We're gonna be frying, man. So we gotta get there. We're going to get there no matter what, but we got to start in the winner's bracket. I think it's a must for this team to just really start to stack up these points before playoffs and champs. Make sure you're putting yourself in a really good position and that you're primed for the end of the year. And, we talked a lot about, okay, MiDNiTE got benched, Standy comes in, Priest moves positions, Accuracy now benched, MiDNiTE comes back in his stead, so he's the main AR, Priest is the flex, you got your 2 crack subs in Standy and Attach. I'm wondering when they're going to put it together a little bit here, because there's been a lot of kind of movement and trying to mesh, and Standy came onto the team and really seemed to mesh really well with the guys, but there's been a bit of a plateau lately, or even I guess a dip, right? A dip in performance that we were used to seeing for a little bit there. And I don't know, I do think that the guys have the resolve to bring it back here, get comfortable together and really make a good run. But yeah, yesterday versus Optic, I mean, it's hard to say because Optic is like, no one can say they're not a hot team right now based on their stage 3 major performance. So I guess today, yeah, is going to be like a real test. Like if we struggle to beat Paris or even lose, like then I would maybe start worrying a little bit. But hey, let's not go there yet. All right, we're not there yet. We got a whole match ahead of us. Let's take a look at the maps here. So These are interesting picks. I'd love to actually break these down with you. So I'll say them. You tell me more about the matchup and kind of what's the records, where we at, what's the pulse on this. Let's check the pulse on the match. Well, I'll go through the vetoes first. So the maps are going to be Hardpoint Garrison, Search and Destroy Raid. Shout out Raid, best map all time. Control on Raid. Ooh, 2 in a row. Would we deserve that? I don't know. Hardpoint on Moscow. Search and Destroy on Express. And the vetoes were, so RØKKR vetoed Checkmate Hardpoint. Paris vetoed Raid Hardpoint, which is interesting. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure. Search and Destroy vetoes. RØKKR vetoed Standoff. That was a terrible showing yesterday on Standoff. Paris vetoed. I'm actually not sure what Paris vetoed, actually. I couldn't, I'm not sure if I got that news just yet. But Control, RØKKR vetoed Checkmate. Paris vetoed Garrison. So, like, a little bit typical bans, I would say, for the points. What do you gather from the picks and bans there?
Yeah, so the very first thing that comes to mind is the search and destroy ban for Minnesota and them banning Standoff. So this was the one map that Paris won in that recent matchup against Atlanta. It was like the very first day of this stage 4. It ended up being, you know, a dominant win in a 3-1 fashion by Atlanta FaZe, but the map that they lost that Standoff search and destroy 6-1 to Paris, and Paris looked really good. So that, to me, kind of plays out the rest of how these map picks went. So just if we're talking about the SNDs in specific, that SND raid should be a pretty easy win. It's a map that Paris hasn't won all year. They're 0-4 on raid S&D. Minnesota's 2-2, but they've been playing that really well as of late. And the interesting part is now, I think because Paris looked so good on Standoff, that Express slid into the map picks today, and it's a map where Minnesota's 1-4 and Paris is 2-2. So it's not like they're world beaters. It's not like they're 7-1 on Express S&D, but just the way that they played Standoff that first day against Atlanta, I think it kind of altered the path of the vetoes, and it left in a map 5 that we might not be super comfortable with. If we go throughout the rest, I think the map 1 is super important. This is, again, it's a new Paris squad with the addition of Zaptius. So some of these records and maps and modes might play a little bit differently than what, you know, the records say. But map 1, Hardpoint Garrison, we're not particularly strong there with a 2-6 record. Paris is 7-3. So it'll be interesting to see right there. I do think, I know we talked about this a little bit before we went live. I think if Minnesota wins that first map, then I think it could be a quick 3-0. I really do, because the S&D raid, which we've already talked about, is in Minnesota's favor. And then the control raid, I mean, it's control raid. I know that we lost that yesterday to Optic, but Minnesota's 9-5, bread and butter. I know we, you know, said both teams were playing really well on that map yesterday, but Paris is 3-6, and it's not one of their stronger control maps. So if you can win map 1, you really shouldn't have a tough time winning map 2. And you should follow that up with a win in map 3. I think if you lose map 1, that's where things get a little bit interesting, because map 4, the hard point on Moscow, Minnesota's 1-5, Paris is 1-3. It's a map that neither team is good at. It could be a toss-up. So that's just, whenever you have maps where there's some inconsistency, that's obviously not the best thing or what you're hoping for. And then that map 5, Express S&D, we've seen Minnesota struggle at times on that S&D on Express. So we'll see how today goes. But Paris is 500 on that map too. So let's just, path to victory moving forward, let's just try to get a map 1 win, because if we come out 1-0 on that hard point in Garrison, then the S&D and the control after that should be maps that go in our favor.
I think so. I mean, yeah, looking at the maps, it's a little curious how Moscow kind of got in there. Minnesota, I mean, we're 1-5 on that map, and we chose to veto Checkmate. I watched Brian Saints, Coach Saints' pregame interview, and he mentioned, like, yeah, like what we showed on that map, like we had a pretty tough start and a couple rough breaks, but like we feel we're better than what we showed yesterday on that map. So this might just be them trying to like really enforce and and maybe just get more reps on the map because it isn't one of their strong maps. And I guess if you are gonna, yeah, it's tough though because Garrison is that hard point map 1 and Paris is 7-3 on that map, which, and we're 2-6. That doesn't feel very good.
No, it
but
doesn't.
yeah, I agree. Like, if we don't win map 1, which is possible because it's hard point and we are RØKKR, but I feel that search and destroy on raid, Paris is 0-4. I don't think that Paris is a very good search and destroy team. We got Major Maniac back in there. I mean, maybe it's all just like, you know, on-screen talent fluff. We're like, yeah, Major Maniac's back, the search is fixed. Like, it's not always that simple, right? Especially when you haven't had a ton of reps on it. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. I do think that search and destroy on raid, it's a borderline must win, right? If you want to feel good. If you go down 0-2 in this series, then it gets super dicey in those last 2 maps.
Yeah, don't want to go down 0-2, especially that S&D raid that Paris is 0-4 on. They haven't won all year. I will say just a couple more notes on yesterday's performance against Optic. I thought Mike came in and played pretty well overall.
He was basically,
yeah, I mean, he was basically right around even throughout the entirety of that series, a series that was pretty one-sided, so take that into consideration there. When it came to the S&D, he was just always in those positions. I know we talked about it a lot yesterday, but he seemed to be in those counter positions where Optic would finally go ahead and make a push or try to hit a flank, and he was there countering those advancements. So I thought he played well yesterday. I think the biggest matchup for today is I think Priesta has to come back to where he was like during the stage 3 major a little bit. So Priesta in that matchup versus Optic had a 0.64 overall, and I believe he was like 3-8 in the S&D. And if you're playing S&D, obviously even the maps that we have today like Raid and Express, pretty medium to long range gun battles there, and you need your flex and your AR to really capitalize and get kills in those positions. Again, it'll be interesting to see what Mike does on those maps too, because yesterday standoff, that S&D map can be much more short range. So we'll see, you know, what immediately comes to mind is the success that somebody like Skies or an AR like Insight has on S&D, on Express, and on Raid, just because they get posted up like in Raid in top laundry or top art or top apartments, and they're just able to beam people from across the map. So I think that S&D Raid, it'll be really important to see how well Mike plays in that. But ultimately, just kind of like what we were talking about, try to get the map 1 victory. If you don't, even it up 1-1, and then you should win the control on Raid, and then the last 2 maps will be toss-ups. So we'll see what happens.
It's gonna be nutty, man. I'm hoping for a 3-1 or 3. Dude, I need to like literally have our page of predictions up when we do this, because I can never remember what I predicted on the podcast. I'm pretty sure I said 3-0 or 3-1. I can't remember which I said. But yeah, that's my guess, right? Like if we go down 0-1 in this hard point, which like knock on wood, I really hope we do not. But I do think the guys will have the resolve to come back, but we do need to route it through that search and destroy and really make sure that we take care of ourselves in the first, part of this series. So, hey, I believe it's bounce back time, baby. I think, did they play Paris's little hype video yet? I saw they played ours. They added Standy in there. Let's freaking go, man.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention.
It's been like 2 stages. The boy is back. He's in the intro. Major Maniac's back in the intro. Look at him. He's saying the search and destroy strats right now. You can tell. He's like, yeah, let's freaking go, baby.
Making the calls.
Yeah, all rush mid. Like, that's probably not how it goes at all. That can't be it. But I digress. Do you so what are your predictions? Chat, I would love to hear yours as well. Icon, what are you predicting here for RØKKR v Petty?
So I did look him up. I went with a hot 3-0. I
Nice.
think with the changes to Paris and the new SMG coming in, and the only map that they really looked decent on at all against Atlanta, which, I mean, it's tough to be, looking good against Atlanta the way that they're playing right now anyways, but was standoff, and we were able to take that out of the equation. So I said a hot 3-0. You and Kingdom both said a 3-1. So you guys could be in the running for some extra points here. If that map 1 doesn't go our way, I definitely think we probably get the next 3 after that. So I said 3-0. You said 3-1. We'll see.
Dang, usually it's always me with like, yep, 3-0, easy, RØKKR,
Yeah.
number one. I mean, RØKKR's always number one in my power rankings. Like, it's just, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, baby. But yeah, I mean, hey, man, Zaptius comes onto this squad. He's a really good player. He's formidable. You know, this Paris team, they've struggled, but they've also beat us before. So you can't take anybody lightly in the league. We know that, especially a team like Paris who's fighting tooth and nail to make sure they get in that top 8 for champs. So it's no joke. It looks like the game is finally about to start up. Come on. We're getting FaceTime. Look at Scraps, man. He's looking ready.
I wish he was still on London. That's what I think about every time I see him.
Yeah, right. It is a little weird. I mean,
want to see
maybe
him
not
and his
weird.
brother.
Right? I wonder, like, how does this happen? Oh, they're still going through the keys to victory. We got time, baby. What can we chat about? Chat says Paris looked way better against FaZe. They gonna smoke RØKKR. Okay, Jason. Okay, sorry to call you out, but hey, guy in the chat, listen. Paris did look good against FaZe. I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like, tell me if I'm like faded here by thinking this. It's not that I don't think that FaZe cares about group play, but I just am not sure how hard they go in group. They have qualified like twice over for champs. I don't know. Maybe they're trying like weird maps. Paris is, like I said, fighting tooth and nail for a spot here. I'm not that surprised by that. Maybe I'm crazy though. I might be crazy on that. But hey, if you're RØKKR though, coming off that it was almost a blowout on the map 1. RØKKR somehow swing their way back into it, almost win the first map. But the search, the control raid, oof, not even close, man. We got kind of smoked. So I think it's going to be about the guys just coming back in here and like really, you know, throwing down the hammer a little bit. Like they just lost to a really good Optic team, and now is where you've got to bounce back. So
yeah, I mean, that matchup against Atlanta, they were within like 50 or 60 points of both the hard points. They lost the raid control 3-1. So sure, they might not have been like 100-point clubbed, but it's not like they were super close either. And like you mentioned, in that map 1, that Moscow hard point against Optic, who Optic is playing like one of the best hardpoint teams in the league, it came down to basically one team kill. They're able to finish that team kill on P1 as it rotated to the third set of rotations. Minnesota wins that map and goes up 1-0. So you can talk about how Paris looked better against Atlanta, but it's not like those maps were super close one way or another.
True that. We'll have to see how it goes. It looks like the match is about to start up here, so we're going to kick you guys over to the CDL broadcast, but IKON and I will be back in between the maps to break down the action and get a little hype, baby. Come on, it's Saturday. It's nice weather outside. All right, there's no way that my vibe can be killed today. Let's bounce back, baby. I'm hype. Let's go into the hard point now, and yeah, we'll catch you guys after map 1.
First, no?
Yeah, I really like this map in Paris, and this is the map that they played versus Atlanta FaZe, and they only lost by at least 20 points. So Paris are really confident on this map. You have their entire year record at 7-3, and on the opposite side, you have Minnesota, who are currently sitting at 2-6. So this is going to be different for these guys. Paris obviously only losing to Atlanta FaZe by a couple of points. You can't really be mad at that. You want to be able to execute there, and hopefully they're able to answer the call.
Yeah, man. Excited to see this series. I know we cannot stress it enough. Again, to go down 0-2 in your pool. I don't want to say it's like a guaranteed, like you're not getting top 3, but it's fair to say, man, like I don't know how many teams have started off 0-2 and still have somehow made it, but I imagine the list has got to be somewhat short. You lose here, you got to be pretty much perfect. A lot of pressure as we fly in for some good old Garrison to start. As you said, Stud saw this one not too long ago with the Paris Legion as the Fire Barrel getting out early. Zaptius quick one to fall, as it is Minnesota walking away with the early time.
Yeah, so Minnesota, they win the opening break, and they're able to start off with the initial time. You see what Paris Legion are doing. They're not trying to get chained off that P1 and P2. They're not trying to let this game get out of hand early, so they're making those adjustments off the rip. That's all about just trying to not give up as much time on this P1 hard point. You're still keeping control of top green, but the spawns are starting to flip, and this is bad for Paris Legion. That's going to be 4 down with all players spawning on towards back tools. Time still going in favor of the RØKKR, and now that they have the spawns for P2, Paris Legion need to respond.
And this is a kind of a similar situation to what we saw Paris whenever they faced off against Atlanta, right? I think it was like a a solid like P1, P2, P3 chain from Atlanta. Paris really kind of started to bring the game back. I think it was like in P4 to P5. They did administer a nice comeback, but again, though, when you're putting yourselves in awkward positions like this, it is never going to be easy. But given the fact of the way the map now looks, it will be a hefty battle to start off our Money Hill. And so far, it is Temp keeping up that same level of play that we saw him have in that last series. That what he had like a 1.13 despite the loss. And as we touched on at the start, if Temp can be firing, if he and Aqua can be that AR combo, it can really lead the way for the team and what is going to be a very rough series.
It definitely can, man. But Paris Legion, they did a good job of just not giving up all that time to Minnesota. But you have to focus on the rotation. And this is bad right here from Paris Legion. They're going to be late once again. Minnesota already had 2 players, make it 3, swanning on towards that back P3 area. MiDNiTE eventually is going to drop. So now it's all left up to Zaptius off this rotation. What can he try to get done? He's not going to find any. So he's going to drop, but Scraps and his teammate in Aqua pushing through this left side junk area, trying to stay alive, but Priest's going to spot him. The spawn still coming in from the backside for Minnesota. And once again, Paris Legion are fighting from the backside.
Yeah, man, a forgettable start to this hard point as we are nearly 3 hills deep, and so far Legion had no advantage in either of these. Those 28 seconds, they have desperately had to work for them, not putting themselves in any favorable spots. Aqua, 1-4 start, not common. What has been kind of the star of Legion alongside Scraps. Speaking of Matty Marshall, he's there to perform, finds 2, now 3 in a row, does drop inside his shop, but it very well could set up a few early plays coming in from the teammates. Standy, the ever clever angle, is able to stay alive for a moment. He gets traded, 15 seconds left, but the trades, it doesn't matter. It is still favoring the RØKKR as they will be good to reach that century mark. And on the other side for Legion, do not grab a single second here over at P3, a rotation that looked good for them to start, but I hate to try and be, I guess you could say devil's advocate in this situation, Stud, but we did see Paris play well on P4 and P5, but it's kind of, like I said, the same story that they had versus Atlanta. It was a matter of not starting off well, putting themselves in the back foot and recovering. I mean, what, if they could play better, just hold spawns the way that they're supposed to, make their life a heck of a lot easier.
It definitely can, man. And just going back to that P1 hard point where you had someone in Aqua who was holding out towards that P2 the entire time, and then eventually when his teammates dropped on that point, he beats aggressive towards that top green area, eventually drops and the spawns flip, and this is just hard for Paris Legion because now, even on the back spawns, Minnesota have control. They're able to take control of top green, and now Paris Legion, once again, are not getting any time. Minnesota have really stepped up the play. You look at the play from MiDNiTE, look at the play from Priesta. We said it before on the keys to victory that the ARs need to have a performance, and Priesta, he's not missing shots right now. Minnesota came to play today.
They absolutely have. Nearly at a 100-point advantage already as Legion slow out of the gates. If you are a RØKKR fan, you've got to be feeling good. Another hard point up next, but current split spawns right now for Minnesota. We'll see how that coordination can work, as that's going to be a nice double for Standy. As we'll step aside and listen in for the communication. We go to our Astro listening with Minnesota.
Yo, you're leaving back. They're all in the back.
Alright, I'm going out.
Back
Stay there.
there.
Actually, I can't find me.
Three in the back. 3 in the back. One of you can shift. One of you can
Yeah,
shift.
they're breaking brick.
They're working towards bricks. They're working towards bricks.
Okay, big door. Get kills right here.
Big door. Big door.
Brick on me.
Take your time. I'm going towards L. Stay alive, green, Eli. I'm not in now.
Brick on me. Brick on me.
L. Drops dead on time.
Almost brick. Aqua brick. One on brick. One on brick.
L heard Donnie. L window. L window.
You
can get time.
I got time. I'm looking arch.
I'm challenging L.
I'm in close bricks. Close bricks, Zach. I'm staying alive, brick.
L dead. Nice.
One hill, one brick.
2 brick on me.
Ivy in here. They're working right. They're working right mid. One shot. One shot. Zaptius. 2 in bricks. Tools. Tools then. I'm getting initial.
Aqua's
okay,
I'll
back up. We should back up.
Okay, stay
I'm holding green. I'm still holding green. I have green.
I have all mid.
Alright.
Left side mid. 2 mid. One stacks and one's under L.
Alright. I can shell bridge if you get time.
Under L. He's B-hop. One shot.
I need your B-hop.
Yeah, come on.
No mid dead.
Yo, I'm gonna vent.
Top green dead.
I'm hitting vent.
Nice.
Top green dead.
Tools. I'm looking my vent.
Tools in vent. Last 2. He's hopping up B-hop.
Stay alive.
You tell me, Dan.
Nice. One more tools.
That tools.
Nice.
I'm in your L.
I'll get time.
One guy spawned
I got
loading.
pin tools. Tools in back alley.
I'm looking at my tools.
One
They're gonna
tools
flip, guys.
in back alley.
Tools, any help?
Yeah, they're playing for time. Back alley, he's spawn killing. He's on crate.
I'm looking over you, P-Dog.
2 are gonna hit time.
They can be a little bit on
One's
me.
on crate.
Yeah, he's still in bricks.
Bricks dead.
Nice.
Nice.
Green.
On time, Scrap on
Help me
time.
hold him. Help me
I
hold
need
him.
I need roll.
Top green.
I mean, son, this is textbook. I mean, we've seen, a number of different dominant games so far throughout this season, but this has been textbook. I mean, just in regards to what Paris have given Minnesota to start this one off. I mean, they have taken every advantage and they have run with it 186 to 56. And of course, they have the next spawns already ready to go.
Yeah, and it's all about the little things, man. Like, even when we were in that listening right there, Minnesota, they were pinning them towards that back tank spawn, but they were just so focused on what they had to get done the next time. And that's all about setting up for that P1. They kept control of top green. They were able to get every single second off of that middle hard point. And now Paris Legion, they're just fighting from the back foot. This is perfect hard point right now for Minnesota. It's not even like they're outslaying them by a lot. It's just that they're making the kills come in the right times, winning those kills off the rotation, not dying off the rotation, and just making sure that they're trading properly. Right now, Minnesota, they look like a well-oiled machine in hardpoint. You have Major Maniac, who's currently sitting on a 6th spree, about to earn himself some streaks. That's another 3 down. And Minnesota, like I said, man, they are on point today.
They absolutely are. I mean, you look at the other side, Zaptius 8 and 20. I mean, other than that, nobody getting heavily outslayed. It's just, -3 here, -4, -5. Nothing dramatic, but obviously when you are an SMG in Zaptius's position, it's never going to be easy given the way that the situations have worked. But speaking of 74 U's, Scraps, somewhat of a positive, but you looked up toward that scoreboard and you say, okay, cool, got 2 in a row, but the other team's only 9 points away from locking this one up. So with that in mind, somewhat of a grim start to this series for Legion, as they are going to need a lot in order just to try to make this one look somewhat more competitive. Nice long-range shots in combination there from Attach and Standy. Dylan Price will in fact pay it as Zaptius did find a nice one. Aqua there as well, but this is probably, I think it's fair to say, Stud, the real first hill that we have seen Paris rotate to effectively and lock down the way that you'd expect them to. Just given the way that this game has gone up to this point, granted they do reach 100 and will surpass that mark. Minnesota in map positioning that they are, you like the chances for them to lock this one up soon.
Yeah, and Paris Legion, like you said, man, that was their first good hold so far in this entire hardpoint. They were nice and early to the rotation, winning the rotation gunfights, and then just holding in the line of the players from Minnesota, trying to break through, winning a majority of those gunfights, and now they're going to be able to push through and now get set up for that P4. They're still flipping those spawns for Minnesota, and I don't want to be the first one to say it, but we saw yesterday Paris had the potential to come back into games. This game is far from over, but 2 players do drop. Zaptius is still going to be able to get on point with only 7 seconds remaining for Minnesota to be able to close this out. Paris, we say it all the time, they have to play perfect hard point, but with 2 players dropping, Minnesota are able to get on the hill, and it's in the closing moments now.
Yep, and that'll be the final second. Minnesota walk away with this one in a solid fashion, 250 to 129. Again, we talked about the RØKKR on paper, worst hardpoint record in the CDL. Paris, a team that relies on those HPs. Not a favorable spot, of course, if you are a Legion fan, but and what, man, getting back to the conversation of this, I feel like we talk about it so often when we cast over Paris. It's these slow starts, like whether or not they're just losing in general hard points, but literally they look to sleep to start off this HP. What do you think is, I'll say this, not necessarily what is the problem, but how do you think that they can start to avoid issues like this? How do you improve what has been slow starts to series, and very clearly here a very slow start to this hard point?
Well, watching them right off the rip of that hard point, you could just tell that they were playing really safe. Like, they were just playing not to make any mistakes, but if their teammates drop and not win their gunfights, they don't have a plan B. Like, that's the thing. Aqua was that player out towards that P2, just making sure he was staying alive outside of green. But when his teammates drop, eventually he has to push it and get into play, and that's just too late. You allow Minnesota to at least get 20 seconds there, and then eventually flip your entire team out on the opposite side for those spawns. And that's what I'm saying with Paris Legion. They continue to have these slow starts because they just don't have a plan B. If your plan A doesn't work, if you don't get the kills, how are you going to be able to bounce out of it? They haven't yet figured it out, and they continue to lose these hard points that way.
And I know the graphic, unfortunately, was a tad wrong there. They don't snap the streak, but they do actually extend it. Now 6 hardpoint losses in a row for the Paris Legion. Leading the way was Priest at 22 and 15, 23 and 18 from Attach. Just in terms of overall kills, they were laying down the damage majority of the time, and it's a nice turnaround, right? If you are Priest in a situation, what was his KD yesterday? So that was like a 0.6 or something.
Yeah, he had a 0.61 just in hardpoint alone. So him going +7 there, you got to be feeling good if you're Priest.
Yeah, absolutely have to. There you see the reactions from Minnesota.
Man, that feels good, Icon. I mean, we heard the casters say it, and you heard me actually have the realization. The casters said RØKKR is the worst hardpoint team in the league. And I was like, wait, us? Like, what? Wait, is that right? And you were like, yeah, they are ranked 12th. And I was like, dang. So, like, we'll take them. And on that map, what was our record on Garrison right then? It was not good.
2-6.
Hey, now we're 3-6. We're climbing the ranks, baby. That feels good. I mean, I know it's versus Paris Legion. They're, what are they, 10th in the league? I mean, shoot, we're in like 7th. These are serious matches right here, and no matter who it's against, it always feels good to bounce back in one of your worst game modes. So yeah, let's hope that we can keep the momentum going in this search. Speaking of bounce backs, like Prisa, he had a really rough day yesterday. Even after the match on Twitter, he said, I played horrible. Like, you know, whatever, I can't remember what he said, so I won't quote it, but he basically mentioned he played horrible and they're going to play again tomorrow. And he came back, he must have had something different for breakfast, I don't know, but he was frying. The whole team played really well. So we said it before the game, that map was a big one to just come out and take the momentum in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. Really big win. I called it 3-0 on the podcast. I called it 3-0 before this started. I think this S&D raid should be a pretty easy win. I mean, nothing is given in this league, especially because, you know, all these squads are super talented. But I'm looking here for Standy and Attached to really just take control of mid-map and be able to open up those lanes down the middle of the map. And then I'm really interested to see how MiDNiTE ends up playing this map, because again, this is one of those maps where those main ARs have really long lines of sight. A lot of times you're shooting from like basketball courts to top apartment, and you know your gun skill has to be on point for those long range gun battles. So I'm interested to see how he ends up playing in a lot of those matchups.
Yeah, I am too. And I think I can't remember if it must have been the last time we played this. I was so frustrated on Search and Destroy Raid, just watching them do the same very standard setups. And sometimes they work and we don't mention it, right? But when it doesn't work, it's like, but yeah, like literally Attach and Sandy, we're going to the same rocks, the same corners, the same everything in mid-map on raid. It'll be really interesting to me to see how do they adjust those spots that they typically go to. How are they going to work it differently? When are they going to push? When are they going to hang back? And we said it yesterday, and maybe it wasn't a good case study on standoff there. It looked like we were a little shaky on that map, but I do think that MiDNiTE really does help this team with the mid-game adjustments that he can make in Search and Destroy. So hey, it all comes with just more reps. Let's get this rep. Let's get into this raid search and hope that we can come out with a dub, because yeah, I think if we were to win this map too, you're feeling really good about a 3-0. But hey, nothing is given. You got to earn it. We're going to kick you back to the CDL stream now. Really appreciate you guys coming, hanging out in the chat. I see you guys. Dream in the chat says, RØKKR played well. MiDNiTE is definitely better. RØKKR's hot, blood is warm. Let's go. Chat's hype. Let's go. 3-0 sweep. The boys taking their frustration out on Paris. They really are. My goodness. Let's hope though. Hey, it was only map 1. You can't just win 1 map. You got to win 3. Let's get into it. IKON and I'll be back just before the control. See you then.
People are starting to catch on to the things that he does.
Yeah, man. It's an interesting conversation to have. You know, we talk about teams like honeymoon periods, players, you know, can kind of come out in their very first series and just dominate. And then at times, you know, that just kind of becomes a little bit more consistent. Got to hear your thoughts on it. And I also wanted to ask you one thing. Coming into the Search and Destroy, again, Minnesota feeling good. Coming into the Search and Destroy, being up 1-0 where they are. I want to ask you, considering that the RØKKR did play the last series yesterday, do you think that first match, that first hardpoint rather, has anything to do with momentum, considering you literally just played last night? Or do you think that a night of sleep, that, you know, however many hour difference that we have, doesn't play a factor at all?
I think it definitely plays a factor, because obviously Minnesota getting 3-0 yesterday, they're probably not getting any sleep, because who likes to lose? And I know a lot of these players do not like to lose, so it's always on their mind the entire time. So you come in today and you're game ready. And the way that they open up that hard point, they were said, oh, we're the worst hard point team in the game. Oh, we're going to turn a lot of phases with this one. And they basically 200-point Paris on that map number 1. So they have the momentum now on their side of being up 1-0. You know what you've got to expect on a map like Raid. You have on one side Paris Legion, who are sitting at 0-4. On the opposite side, you have Minnesota, who are 2-2. But the thing about Minnesota, when you talk about this map, their setups are usually the same. You have Attach and Standy pushing out towards P5. MiDNiTE now filling in for accuracy. But now it's going to be left in a 2v2. Prisa, he's going to drop now. It's MiDNiTE left in a 1v1. But they usually keep the same setups, and that's something that really struggles on for them.
was a 3 versus 2. Now turned into a 1v2. Players right next to each other. Seems as if Minnesota a little bit too slippery to try and find a solid effort out of Priesta and MiDNiTE to try to walk away with it. But it got a little bit scary, but the early fights in toward middle pit do give Legion the advantage, one that they will carry on throughout the remainder of this round. And one thing that I am interested, as Paris do, of course, walk away with the first is, and I know that you talked about this as we've casted over Minnesota. We had like their elimination game from that stage 3 major whenever they dropped versus the Ravens. Yeah. And your big talking point was that, hey, Search and Destroy, the reason why it's stagnant is because they're not doing anything different. And I guess by adding a player like MiDNiTE, I guess what I'm asking is, like, how much of a difference do you think he's going to provide this team in terms of changing up their looks? Do you think that that one player can make all the difference in a mode like this?
I think he definitely can have an impact, because one thing that accuracy was meant for this team, he was that island player. He was always that player that if stuff hit the fan and there was a whole bunch of players running at him, he would play his life or at least take down one with him. But with MiDNiTE now on this team, he's been always a great S&D mind. So you add him to players like Standy and Attach, who are basically the leaders when you talk about the play calling on this map, when you talk about those SMG players and the presence that they bring. But with that being said, it's going to be a 4v4 bomb retake from Minnesota. They're all going to decide to wrap back through the backside, and Paris Legion are able to take down 2. Now in a 4v2, make it left up to a 1v4 for MiDNiTE. He's going to drop, and Paris Legion, they're just picking Minnesota apart, man. They're trying to have some new faces in their pushes, but so far nothing is working.
I guess I could ask the same thing for a player like Zaptius. I know we're talking a lot about RØKKR, Search, Destroy, what obviously they can do now with Major, but I know that in terms of like the London Royal Ravens, like Zaptius, while he was incredibly impactful to that team, it was mostly in the respawns. Like, it was the hardpoint streak. It was their consistency and the control. I know for those who have listened to us talk about Legion a decent amount, we're constantly talking about Zaptius, the potential impact that he can have for this team. But I think the same could possibly be said for a player like him, also in the Search and Destroys. Of course, both these teams do make moves coming into stage 4. MiDNiTE for RØKKR and Zaptius for Legion. Known as a great S&D player in the challenger scene is young Zaptius. Really taking a page out of what we saw Legion do last round, trying to get over, I don't want to say overly aggressive, but just try to get out there, get the conversation going, as it will be a quick 3 versus 3. The trade does in fact come in from Standy. Really, for the most part, it is Paris lining up, trying to gather each other toward that back jungle side, and Standy could play huge here, not able to win that fight. A big one for Zaptius to take. First layer from RØKKR down and Attach. He's weak. They know where Major is. They go for the challenge, and Zaptius now sitting on 4 in a row. Looking good for Legion, as that is going to be 3 rounds up, 3 rounds down. A solid retake there out of Paris.
I'm loving Paris's recent S&D just gameplay, because yesterday versus Atlanta FaZe, they won it in the 6-1 fashion on the very first time that we've seen standoff being played. But their teamwork was on point, and we usually don't expect that from a team coming off of a roster change. Zaptius being that fresh new face, but so far, in the 10 rounds that these guys have played, they have won 9 of them. So these guys are really on point. Their teamwork is on point in Search and Destroy. And this is a good answer, because this is a game mode that they were struggling with a lot throughout the year. And obviously, starting 0-1 in the series, being able to bounce back in that Search and Destroy is a great answer.
It absolutely is. You see 4-1 there from Scraps, 4-1 for Zaptius, 3-1 for Temp. Aqua's just like, cool. Like, we've talked so often about for Paris Legion, like how Aqua needs help. Well, so far throughout this Search and Destroy, he has gotten it. A great answer, considering how the hardpoint went. 3 unanswered rounds. We'll see what they can do on their opening few fights, and that's really just a 3-man challenge through mid, just to secure the first blood on Attach. It's really what you want if you are the offensive team. If you're the attacking team of First Blood, and do wonders, as Priesta receiving the damage, brought down to 22 HP. Now is left to give the callouts to the roster, but it will be callouts from the respawn screen. A quick 2 versus 4. Legion now getting the bomb down.
Yeah, so now in a 4v2, it's all left up to MiDNiTE and Standy. You're going to have Standy, who's going to be playing towards his back basketball court. It's going to be really difficult, because that #1 player is going to call out that player in middle water steps. So eventually the pinch is going to come in. MiDNiTE's going to drop. All left up to Standy in a 1v4. Make it 1v3 now. 25 seconds left. The challenge is going to come in, and unfortunately, he's going to get traded. And just another clean round right there out of Paris. Slowly picking apart the players from the Minnesota RØKKR. Right there, RØKKR, they decide not to have Standy and Attach play towards middle and put Attach in by himself at that kitchen area. He gets picked. Middle map is open, and Paris Legion, they capitalize on that bomb site.
I gotta be honest, man. I'm kind of shocked right now. Like I'm surprised. And we're seeing Paris come out the way that they are. Again, there was so much talk on this Minnesota team, talking how search and destroy, that is going to be their bread and butter. But the way that this one has started, it has, like I said, not been the reunion that they would have at least expected. Again, a solid hardpoint victory, but pretty much a flip-flop, I'm sure, of what a majority of the predictions looked like. We'll see if Minnesota can finally get on the board as Zaptius, ever confident, ever present throughout the middle pit. And for the moment, he is not going to have anybody to try and challenge him there. A slower start to this round from Minnesota as they desperately look to hunt for that first blood. And player 3 very well could be a part of it. The shot's in early as there goes Priesta. Scraps able to find it, lines up Major Maniac as well there from the ARs. Catch there for the trade, but presence is without a doubt felt. Then doesn't go for the full challenge, but he in fact finds the long shot. Zaptius finally gets the engagement he so desperately waited for, and now we've got ourselves a 1 versus 2. Attach, a forgettable search and destroy to start, but he can turn things around in this moment. Gonna run right in to the influx of players, and they will in fact find him out. The SMG duo are able to close out this bad boy as Zaptius, well deserved of the defuse, will go ahead and fire away with those streaks, and Paris just killer to start off this S&D stud.
Man, it's just like map number 1, all Minnesota. So far, map number 2, all Paris. Like, can I get a close one, please, between these two great teams?
It would be nice.
So right now, Paris Legion, they're just picking them apart, man. They're just picking them apart. Minnesota, they're just spreading map a little too deep. One player in that was pushing towards raid side, Scraps is able to spot him, eventually win that one-on-one engagement, and then gives the information to his teammates that they must be committing towards B. You eventually set up your teammate in Zaptius to peek that corner. He's currently sitting at 6-1, already opened up with an artillery. So at this point, Minnesota, you're down 0-5. It's about to start time to start taking some risk, and that artillery is going to come in. Obviously, the information is going to be there, so Zaptius knows he has a free B-bomb plant. Bomb's going to go down. Now it's all up to number 1, who's going to be watching that flank. And how long can he stay alive? At least he's able to take down 1. So now it's a 3v3 situation.
You like the aggressiveness that is Standy, but you look at that 5-0 and you're like, maybe too late. Like the craftiness, the ideas of doing things like that are fine, but we would have liked to seen it somewhat earlier. Standy able to find the second one as well. Meanwhile, inside of Tiki, Aqua for a moment, and Temp with the ability to shut down the bomb diffuser. That is a major kill. 15 seconds left, but it's all going to be on to Standy, and he will in fact answer the call. A much needed hat trick from one SMG as Attach will lay down the defuse. RØKKR finally get on the board after some craftiness, but against them, we see that 5-1, and you got to give props where it's due. But with this play late from Temp, it nearly got a... Could have been very well 6-0, to be honest with you. I mean, if Temp wins the fight versus Standy, this round is over. This is a 6-0.
Yeah, it has the potential. If Zaptius would have just played his life a little better, probably backed up to their spawn and used that artillery strike, they could have been able to close it out in a 6-0. But unfortunately, he drops and it was a 3v3 situation. So Minnesota, they stay alive. They no longer, on the side of Paris, have a ping for that artillery, but a couple nades are going to come in from middle. Unfortunately, Standy, he's going to go for that lay down spot. He's going to get picked. And already Minnesota are down a man now in a 3v4 situation. They're going to try to be aggressive towards Laundry and eventually work this bomb plant.
Aggression worked out last time. We'll see how it works out here, but aggressiveness most likely halted as here comes the artillery from the skies. Can it drop anybody? Explosions aplenty, and really, once those explosions come to an end, it's Priesta for the instant return. So a quick 2 versus 3. Bomb plant is in, but the aggression over the top is going to be met. Priesta's able to stay alive. So 40 seconds on the clock. Out of Paris, look to go for the retake as it is Temp. Pretty much gets the call and decides to roam by himself. He is hanging out toward Statue and really can't Attach find him out. That is the player that they have to single out. Meanwhile, toward middle. Tent may realize, hey, we've got a nice little challenge going over here. 18 seconds. It all is on to attach again. A 1 versus 3. Scraps is there for the clothesline, and that will be a quick finish to an ultimately quick game of search and destroy. A dominant hardpoint replied by a dominant search and destroy as Legion get the job done in 7.
Yeah, and that was just great plays right there out of Legion. Like, even in that 3v2 situation, they knew that the bomb plant was going to be down towards the middle of the map. So they were trying to retake from Laundry side, but Scraps, the heads-up player that he is, man, especially in this game mode, we saw him drop double digits yesterday versus Atlanta. He really came out right there and just wrapped completely back around basketball to go straight up water steps and just single out Priesthood, who was going to be in the middle of the map. Once they eliminate that player, they know it's all left up to Attach. He's already gave up his positioning on that bottom driveway. He can only wrap back towards the middle of the map, and they just catch him. Paris Legion so far in their last 2 search and destroys, 12-2. They're looking really good in that game mode, and they're able to tie the series up at 1 apiece.
They look clinical, man. A team that was, what, 6-16 coming into stage 4, dominating back-to-back S&Ds. And I know I talked about Major Maniac, his impact for the Minnesota RØKKR in this game mode. Let's go ahead and scratch that, at least for now, and really just highlight Zaptius coming onto this team. He finishes off well, but ultimately it is Scraps, as you mentioned, 11-2. We talk so often about kind of different game modes. It was kind of Aqua who was waiting for some help in the respawns. It was Scraps who was also kind of looking for that help, but primarily in the search and destroys. It's fair to say that they've got it, at least in this game mode, as, I'll be honest with you, this one is kind of surprising to me. Like, I did not expect for Minnesota to come out of the gates the way that they did, and then for Paris to dominate the way that they did in search and destroy again. I thought it may have just been on standoff, but clearly that is not the case. Oh boy, I honestly have no idea how to call this series from here. This does not go the way that I think either of us predicted, but one thing that we have to do, though, is quickly revisit, I believe it was round 3 here for our U.S. Army tactical play. Again, we talked about big plays. This one, of course, was, in fact, Zaptius getting the job done. One of the many major rounds that gave Paris the advantage early.
Yeah, so right there, this is when Temp was pushed out towards Laundry side, and now it's all about a 3v3 retake on both sides. Eventually, the bomb has to get planted for Minnesota, but you see what Zaptius and the players from Paris Legion decide to do. They make sure no players are going to run around towards the backside, but Zaptius, he's going to be the aggressive submachine gun. He's able to slide this corner and open up with that first blood. And then eventually, it just all comes down to trades, man. They know the positioning from Attach. As he does get spotted on the cross, they eventually find this player out towards top Laundry. Turns into a 3v1 situation. Zaptius was just hitting every single bullet right there with that SMG. Opening plays with the 2-piece. Eventually turns it into a 3v1. Paris Legion, once again, another team push to retake.
Yeah, all about the teamwork. And Legion, they're making it work to start off. You see the reactions. A very hype Paris team.
We are a hardpoint team now, IKON. That is 2 extremely ugly search and destroys in a row. One yesterday on standoff versus Optic, and then that raid. You know, typically a pretty good map for RØKKR, a bad map for Paris. It looks like the most easy layup of a map if you have one this series, and we not only were we not able to win it, but we got smoked. So what do we make of this team's constant struggle with, hey, we're really good at search, or hey, we're really good at hardpoint?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be, and it's interesting because you're seeing kind of the same thing with Paris, is that if you make one change to your roster, a lot of these game modes can go different ways. I think what we've seen so far is that we're looking a lot better at hardpoint just because, you know, that's the easiest mode to bring somebody else in and make a change to. But Paris is kind of showing the opposite of that. So to start this series, a map that Paris is really good at on that hardpoint garrison, they get absolutely throttled. And then S&D raid, they haven't won all year, and they won in 6-1 fashion. So it's interesting to see how you add one piece to both of these squads and their identity seems to change quite a bit. I don't think the identity will change much when it comes to control, which is a good sign moving forward. But we thought right now, at least I thought it would probably be 1-1 and then got to win the control. And then the last 2 maps would be a bit dicey. They could go one way or another. But right now, with how good Paris has looked at S&D, you definitely want to get wins in the control and the hard point and just close it 3-1, because they won that standoff against Atlanta FaZe. This S&D on raid against us was not close whatsoever. So, and especially that fifth map, it's not like it's a Miami or a map that Minnesota's been playing well at. It is S&D on Express, where we're 1-4 on the year. So let's just not even get there. Let's try to win the control and then finish it in the hard point.
Yeah, that's gonna have to be the way. I guess the only thing I could think, because we gas up MiDNiTE, one of the best search players in the league. He just had a really rough map. There all these, my talk of in-game adjustments. It's gonna be great. It was not great just then. Didn't see a lot of great adjusting. A lot of solo challying. Paris really maneuvered the map well together. They won a majority of the trades, or just straight up were able to get picks. So that was just it's surprising to see. But if I'm gonna try to fight my way out of the excuse paper bag for a sec, if you're bringing back a player you're very familiar with in MiDNiTE, and when he was on the squad before, you're very good at search and destroy. I don't know, no insider info, but I'm just theorizing that it's possible that they were like, okay, we need to make sure we tune up our respawns, because that's where we're going to have the toughest time probably re-implementing him back into the system. He's playing a slightly different role than before. So maybe there was a ton of respawn focus and not enough search focus. Maybe, I don't know. I'm literally just talking sideways. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the only excuse I could think of why this team, who shouldn't be bad at search, is bad at search right now. I don't think that they'll always be like this. I think that for the last ranked hardpoint team in the league, you're duly right that you do need to work a ton on hardpoint, especially after you make a roster move. But to lose the search and destroys like we just did now and yesterday versus Optic was not a good showing on standoff. Makes you a little nervous, but hey, man, if we can just take this control on raid, despite getting blown out in the beginning of yesterday's Moscow versus Optic, it was very winnable, right? Mm-hmm. And I think Moscow was our pick for hardpoint. So hey, let's freaking see how it goes, baby. We're gonna go into map 3 now, control on raid. This has been our bread and butter. Yes, we got mopped on it yesterday by Optic, but we're 9-5 on this map. Paris is 3-6. You have to get this win here to avoid the anxiety in map 5, like you said.
Yeah, just come out and just play your game. And most notably, remember this control from yesterday, all the pushes through the bottom of the map on offense. Let's hope to just take control of mid-map, get control of kitchen, and win the offenses through that route. I
will count how many times they push through laundry on offense after they've secured A. Hopefully it's only once. We'll see though, guys. All right, guys, we will see you after the map 3 control.
The one to highlight, the one to put in bold is what player 1, player 2, player 6, player 7, really the arrows, the numbers that you do want to look at on that mini map. We can't stress enough, right? We're always looking at the mini map from time to time, and you are a new viewer. Sometimes bottom left of your screen can give you all the information that you need. Obviously, our wonderful observer team showing us everything possible. But here we go into our first round. Minnesota beginning on the attack, as it is Aqua laying down the damage early, make it 3 in a row to start, as all of that progress will in fact add to 1 tick. But Legion there quickly on the reply, as Zaptius with the nice reactions through Zig, trying to halt this one for as long as they can. Again, familiar territory for this Legion team. Just got done winning raid search and destroy, as Temp is somehow cleaning up kills through the statue itself. I did not know that you could do that.
Yeah, and it's just difficult because Minnesota, their initial push was shut down. So now it allows players like Scraps to head up and hit that flank side, and he's able to at least pick up one, trying to take down the second in MiDNiTE. But his teammate is there in Aqua, able to eliminate the last 2, and still 45 seconds remaining. Already a 7 live advantage for the Paris Legion. Minnesota, they do not have a point. They only have 1 tick on towards that 8 point. And now they're slowly just trying to work out of their spawn because they know the positioning of Paris Legion players. They have full map control. It's another 2 down. And now they finally have an opening with MiDNiTE getting that 2-piece to go towards that B site.
And again, it's the flanks. Aqua, if he turns the corner just in time. Actually, he's not going to. He knows exactly where to look. Forget what I just said, Yuli. Don't worry about it. Attached, meanwhile, has made his way up to basketball court, so that will be a major double, as the clock will halt itself right now at 26 and some change. Stack is in. There's the second tick, but going to need to be this consistency as here comes Paris for the return. Player 3, somewhat off the distance. Aqua will hang out in what will be the recovery. So nice heads-up play, but that B capture does come in nonetheless. As Minnesota do get it done in the later stages, and it was an unorthodox play, but will actually force themselves through water side. Paris are somewhat there to read it. Trades back and forth, a minute on the clock, and still 2 ticks to go.
Yeah, so Minnesota know that with their teammates spawning out towards that water area, that there has to be a couple players from Paris Legion in towards this art room, and this is exactly where Zaptius is. They have that back control, but they're trying to set up the pinch, and here comes Standy and his duo in attach. Those SMGs keeping their presence on the map. If they can eliminate these players from this laundry area, this is the best case scenario. Trades come in. They have to try to locate Aqua, but he's just having such a great map so far. 15-5 lives remaining for the Minnesota RØKKR. Make it 4 now, and this is just a great round right here out of Paris. Good beginning opening to at least shut down that initial push onto that 8-point. You fight for the map control. You keep the live advantage the entire time, and you should be able to close this one out here.
It's been somewhat of an unorthodox round. Like if you were to tell me, Stud, that like, oh yeah, Minnesota, you know, they do start off a little bit slow, but they get some really good time over at that B point, I probably would have assumed that this would be a round for RØKKR, but not at all the case. There's just been so much dominance. 2 versus 7 as we do halt. Take a moment to breathe, but one final player left on the point. The final man standing is MiDNiTE. He will in fact be dealt with, but again, it was just so much dominance on this side of the map for Paris, and I was going to assume it's probably Aqua, right? It has to be Aqua at some point. Put on a show a number of different times as that Krig is firing today. Maybe not on Garrison, but ever since we have been on raid, a nice little throwback. Aqua showing us why he does in fact have some of the best gun skill in the game. Ends out our first round at 10-6. A solid beginning across the board when we talk about slaying for the Legion. And now we'll see what they can do coming into their first attack.
And this is a struggle that Legion had versus Atlanta. They just weren't able to keep up with the slaying. When you're playing against the big dogs, it's going to be hard to kill them all the time. And you had 3 players that were sitting in the negative KD. The only one positive throughout that control was Temp. He was actually at a 1.13, so he's just going to keep up that slaying. And when you have players like Aqua, players like Zaptius who are really stepping up so far in the beginning of this map, it's a great way to build that momentum. MiDNiTE, he's able to eliminate that player in Temp on towards that point. And just the same exact start that Paris Legion had on their very first offense, Minnesota have the same exact thing. And now they force all of Paris Legion to hit towards that B point.
Similar strategies being brought out. It does get somewhat quiet for a moment, but the shots quickly beginning to echo throughout this water side as they will in fact line up there for Major. A quick 4 down. With a minute 10 on the clock, the awareness for Paris is instantly toward driveway, specifically toward this A point, right where Attach is running right into the angle that he was holding for a moment. But again, trades back and forth, solid plays overall from Minnesota. What has been the last, maybe solid minute. Paris looking for the reply, and it will be a nice little entry there for Temp. We'll see if Legion can somewhat carry off of that. Big fight for Aqua going down over at Mansion as well. But you see those two in the feed, just like that. Legion, some progress made and some progress thwarted yet again. 35 on the clock. Something has to be done now.
Yeah, so Minnesota, they're doing a great job. And this is in Paris Legion's struggle all year. They are the last team in attacking rounds. They just cannot get the job done on this side of the mode. With Minnesota still having map control, they're deciding to push straight through Kitchen and trying to come up behind a couple players from Minnesota to get out towards this B point. But got to think about it, just in case it does go to that round number 5.
Okay.
Right now, only 2 ticks in for Paris Legion, but they're able to chain a couple kills together. They're trying to complete this B point. The second tick is able to come in, and they're only down 5 lives. So if they're able to extend this clock by an extra minute, they definitely have a good shot with at least 2 going down there to close this one out.
Oh, but a nice double from Priesta. 1 player left on the point. That was Zap. Despite Priesta coming away with a nice double kill. Really took down every single player. Final one up was Zaptius. And his foot just on the edge of the control point. And that will be a capture. So like we said, very similar rounds in comparison for both teams, I guess you could say a little bit more of a slower start for Paris in regards to this attack, but still 45 seconds on the clock. They do have 1 tick. Scraps looks to lay down the groundwork. No teammate support coming in from the flank, but nonetheless, that will be 3 down for RØKKR regardless. As things do start to get scary. That life count now heavily in favor of Minnesota. That clock heavily in favor of the RØKKR. On the 4 spree is Major. And anybody from Paris makes somewhat of an attempt as the flank will in fact be clear. And Zaptius did not spot the head there of Major. With that, we'll leave Legion in a world of pain. 3-10. You do get the opening, but what can they do with it? It has to be the stand here, the final stand, if you will. Aqua does find the first, but players from the flank leave Zaptius all by himself. 1 versus 8, can he do it? The answer is no. RØKKR, they reply back.
Yeah, and RØKKR right there, they just saved themselves just in case it does go to that round number 5. They did not let Zaptius complete that second tick on towards that 8 points. So right now, Minnesota are leading by 1 tick. I'm pretty sure they're winning in that kill column as well, with the Major Maniac really having himself a game. And this is one thing that Minnesota were really struggling with, is just the AR presence in a game mode like Control. You see Priesta, he's not having too much of a hot one, but Major Maniac really stepping up for his team, holding down that 8 point as best as he can the entire time he was by himself. So this time around, Minnesota, they're going to commit towards that 8 point once again. Let's not try to get 3-piece by Aqua and let this play break again. This time they're going to have 2 players on it. First tick is already going to come in. Just keep in mind, look at Aqua. He's just playing such like a rat, able to just play his life perfectly, able to take down 2 and disrupt the push out of Minnesota.
Yeah, that's such a great play from him, because I feel like if you are RØKKR in that situation, knowing how your first attack went, you're fully expecting, right? That guy to be top laundry, ready to mow you down. I mean, the guy has to have like an angle to start it off, but no. He plays his life, plays it slow, right when the RØKKR kind of assume they've got control over the point. That is when Aqua lays down the double. A great play coming through from him. Again, a player that started off the stage great, despite, Legion having what was kind of a rough stage 2 into stage 3. Really for him, first 2 stages were great. However, in that stage 3, really started to struggle, and really based off of that, you've seen them go for the roster change to bring in Zaptius from the Ravens, and still to be seen on how much of an impact it can have, but I guess kind of excluding that opening hardpoint stud, which we could talk about for a number of different reasons why it went that way. Maybe not even have the full solution. This Legion team, definitely from a strategy perspective, looks to have changed up their game. A lot of players kind of going on flanks, more unorthodox type of styles. RØKKR will put in the final few moments here at A, but we'll see if Legion can kind of continue on with that craftiness, as they're going to have to hold well here for a minute 30.
Yeah, and this is going to be difficult because, look, you have Standy and Attach already in this kitchen area. You're going to have all 4 players from Paris Legion already down towards lower pool side. But how can they play this? Can they stay alive, stay pushed out towards bedroom, and Standy's able to take down 1? So now here comes the pinch from his teammates in towards basketball. Attach gets the second, Priestess with the third off the spawn. So now they have to try to locate 2 players. They understand that there's 1 player in towards bedroom and 1 player in Teak. Aqua's able to take down 1. But they still know that Zaptius' position is in from the bedroom side. The first take does come in from B, but with just a submachine gun duo on that side of the map, all they have to do is just stay alive, and hopefully their team is able to win those engagements on the opposite side of the map. But Zaptius able to get 2 before doesn't drop, and Aqua with the 3rd.
And Tim, thank you very much for the 4th. Also a trophy for good measure. Zaptius making the plays up close, as you said, Stud, finds the major double kill. No pun intended there for Maniac, but see what he can continue to do. Again, 40 seconds left if you're Minnesota. You know he's got to be around here. And the nice punch there from Priesta. Beats him down, slams him down, and sends him to who knows where off the side of Raid. As 25 seconds left in this round. Can it continue to be defense that wins out? But look toward the backside. It is the flank. It's the SMGs trying to cause some issues, but it's Zaptius again on both sides of this control point, going big for the team. He has to go for the reload, I guess. Who knows? Those 9 shots could in fact be impactful, but really with Attach back here, he's just trying to make some noise. But is there any reason for it? Is there any solution that can come from it? This 1v1 that feels like it's lasted a lifetime will in fact go the way of Attach. It's going to be a nice 3, Minnesota. No respawns left, but have they done enough? Halfway there, a minute on the clock. Rather, excuse me, a second on the clock. For Legion, they've got to get here quick. And they get here in time as they start to run in for basketball. They line up, and it will be a victory for Minnesota in this round. Huge plays toward the stretch. No respawns, no problem.
I just can't believe that Minnesota just did that. Like, the fact that Attach, he knew exactly what he needed to do for his team. You had your teammates who were spawning out towards the back garage side. They pushed out towards bedroom, but Attach, he knew his life was the most important one on the map. And Zaptius kept on throwing shoulders at him to try to get him to reposition or try to get him to commit to that gunfight. But Atachi's able to walk out there when the time is right, take out one, maybe take out the second as well, and eventually stall time for Standy to get into the play. That was just such a 2v4 clutch out of the SMG duo for the side of Minnesota RØKKR. If they do not make the plays as they just did, they do not walk away with this round, and you already see the pace is going to change. This time, Paris Legion are going to try to commit towards the speed point. Temp and Scraps able to win 2 gunfights on their side of the map, but still, no progression on either one of these points right now. If you're Minnesota, all you have to do is just get out of your base and keep these guys off, and you should be able to close it out.
And Tim, maybe a little bit frustrated after how that round came to a close. Pulls out the Diamante, switches back to the Krig, and there will be some nice assistance there for the third. Solid work early done for Legion, but again, that round, it has to sting. That is a round that I definitely want to see broken down later in the day. The nice reaction there as the ARs combine for the kill on the Temp. 1 tick through so far at B, but and if you are Legion, considering where you're at, now have to transfer, given the spawns, now over toward A. This fight very well could decide whether or not we see this one come to a close in 4. How big can RØKKR go here on the defense? The time will be stopped for the moment. Zaptius awaiting the callouts, waiting for the cavalry to arrive, but here come the SMGs from the back, rather than Standy and Priest. You never know, he could have an SMG out depending on the fight, but it will be 1 tick through for the moment. Paris are able to see some clear skies, but can Priesta cause enough of a problem? Can MiDNiTE be annoying enough on the flank? Have they done enough? As it'll be 2. 1 more left inside of the point will be Temp. Paris still holding strong. As MiDNiTE will realize the best position for him is to back up, as that A point will go to the hands of Legion.
So now that A point has been captured, Minnesota, they were just trying to end the game there, but unfortunately, they're not able to pick up those kills, so time is going to get extended by a minute. But you see the positioning out of their players. You have 2 players pushing towards bedroom. 1 player, actually make it 2 players watching the backside of the kitchen. Just trying to play off these trade kills, but Attach gets a little bit overzealous right there. Tries to commit to the gunfight on the Scraps. Eventually, he gets taken down, but Standy and Priesta able to take down 2. Attach with the 3rd. Now it's all left up to Scraps. Was the last player in his position towards kitchen. With a minute left, MiDNiTE is on a 5 spree, and he's that player that's going to be sitting out towards bedroom, but he drops, so now it's all left up to Standy, and Standy times it perfectly. He's not able to get the second, so that's going to be bedroom control in favor of the Paris Legion, but with 45 seconds left, they have about 1 to 2 more good pushes until Minnesota are able to close this one out.
How do you want to see Paris engage this? Again, with the time, given the lives, given the way that the map currently sits, what do you think their best and most favorable position is to attack this?
Right now, they're doing what they have to. They have to take control of kitchen. They have to eventually work out those kills towards back basketball and then eventually spawn the players from Minnesota towards that laundry side. And you see, this is their last push. They have to commit towards this, but MiDNiTE, he's in such a great position. They open up the first blood, but MiDNiTE's able to find 2, make it Standy with the 3rd, and there's only 1 player remaining from Paris Legion, which is going to be Temp. He's able to take down 1. 6 to 9 lives remaining. Priesta with the trade, and time is starting to tick. Minnesota should be able to close it out here.
They like their chances. Priesta finds a second. MiDNiTE, the explosion for good measure, as it will be a victory again for the RØKKR. Replying once more in the respawns. A back and forth control, but ultimately it does favor Minnesota toward the stretch. A back and forth game, but what was 2 back-to-back hard losses in control for Minnesota have now been wiped away. A major W here versus the Legion as they now find themselves up in this series 2-1.
Just got to go back to that play, man, with the touch. He was the only player in towards basketball. He knows the timing. He knows exactly what he needs to do for his team. And he's able to slide out to the point, stop that clock, and then not win one, but win 2 engagements. And that's Paris Legion, where you need to be able to close that out because you know how bad your team is on those offensive rounds. And then once Attach gets that 2, he stalls enough time for eventually Standy to get on towards that point. He trades that kill onto Attach, but then wins the second gunfight as the player tries to jump out of money. It was just such a great play and such a devastating loss right there for Paris. If they close that one out, they have the potential to go into that round number 5, but Minnesota, they clutch up. I said it before that map started. It came down to the players standing and attached, and in the rounds where they needed it the most, they come out on top.
They do indeed, man. That play, like I said, it's going to be one that I'm sure will be broken down by many people. Many Twitter analysts, many actual analysts as well.
Needed that for the psyche, man. I mean, I don't know how we dropped the search so tough right there in map 2, but to watch them come back right into the control, and hey, they lost the first offense. You know, they were able to win defense, and then it got real dicey. They were the 1-second wonders on offense. Attach and Standy, I believe, at B to end that round off, clutched it up, and from there just they're able to take it. What'd you notice about just how they were able to play that map together?
First of all, Attach came out, had 6,000 damage. So even though he was only like +2 or 3, I think, he was just getting bullets in everybody all around the map. And then the biggest thing from me is just kind of how different we saw from MiDNiTE, and just he was playing super quick. We saw multiple times that on those defensive rounds, rather than, you know, like sit on Tiki or be top laundry and just wait for a push, he was being the aggressor, and we saw him push mid-map. We saw him get multiple kills on flanks from behind. He was at least 2 or 3 different times that player that, as Paris was getting onto a point, he was the player that was shooting them in the back. And normally that role is reserved for somebody like Standy, who's trying to play really crafty around the map. And he just has a knowledge to him where he realizes the situation, he realizes the position that he's in, and if he just gets aggressive and moves forward, he can kill people from the flank. And it's just a different feel overall. And I believe you said it while we were watching. It was almost like Priesta was kind of playing like that traditional main AR role a little bit more, and Mike was being the one that was a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, he's done. I mean, we all know MiDNiTE, just renowned search player, kind of that he can be sneaky, right? Like he just has a really good general like game awareness. Like he knows where to be and when to be and why. It's really important, especially in a game of like Control where the spawns are a bit more static, to understand, you know, how many people are down, how many people are up, you know, where is it likely they're pushing, and just he's able to appear in places that you, like you say, you kind of expect Standy to be there, but you don't expect MiDNiTE to be there. And that is honestly a terrifying thought if you're spawning in on raid Control and you're expecting Standy and it's MiDNiTE as well. That's just a handful to deal with. And I think, yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, we've seen this year in the CDL, the main AR role has evolved, right? Like you saw LA Thieves, you know, they bench Slasher. They say, hey, Kenny's the main AR. And everyone, including me, was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, he's a fast player. No, you need the turret type of guy who's just going to sit, hold the spawns, look over the subs, and just stay alive and do his job. Whereas now, I don't know. I don't play COD. I don't play this COD that much. I may have just not really have a deep understanding of the game and the fundamentals. I'm just saying what I see. But we see, you know, now we've seen 2 fast AR plays kind of coming out and just really helping elevate the respawn. We are, as the caster said, and I even asked you because I didn't believe it, we are the worst hardpoint team in the whole league. And that needs to improve, I think, as well as maintaining our good Control game. If hardpoint can genuinely improve, this team's in a really good spot, because with MiDNiTE on it, I know the search looks ugly right now, but it's possibly because they're not prioritizing it. Once they start prioritizing it and really just start cracking on these respawns, it could get really, really pretty for Minnesota. But hey, We were only up 2-1. The match is not over. We could very well, I could eat my words and we could lose this hard point and then sweat through the search and not know what's going to happen. So it's looking like, so we're going to Moscow. RØKKR's 1-5 on Moscow, which doesn't give you a lot of confidence. But, you know, RØKKR and Coach saying this is what we thought was so interesting. You know, we ended up vetoing Checkmate, Paris vetoed Raid, and that's how we ended up here. We didn't veto this map after having such a rough record on it, after losing it, you know, really tough yesterday. I think, you know, maybe Coach Saint or the teams, like, they want to prove a point that they are not ass on this map anymore. Let's see what it looks like, though, man. You gotta show it. So let's see. IKON and I'll be back after the Moscow hardpoint.
Obviously versus Optic. Yesterday, they closed out that game 250 to 238 with almost having one of the most insane comebacks we've seen throughout the entire year. We weren't able to get the job done, but it's all about the early start, man. It's all about just making sure that you're doing the correct things and not doing the wrong things like Paris Legion did the entire first map. Make sure that you're winning your rotation gunfights, staying alive, make sure you're watching your cam, and winning your trade situations. In Minnesota, they should be set.
We'll see how they fare off. Again, less than 24 hours later as the quick little duel is in. MiDNiTE does win out for the moment. At least gets the street cred. But Legion, they'll lock it in the spawns. That will be the topic of conversation. I feel like recently on Moscow, it is all about those P2s. Who's holding them versus who was dropping a rotation that they shouldn't have. Who wasn't watching a lane that they should have. And really, so far from Paris, you've seen Minnesota kind of get aggressive. Legion, they back up, just wanting to make sure that they will and truly have that P2 in their hands. As toward the later stretches, Aqua, one of the binding players, hanging out toward Boulevard. You see him, he's going to get pretty much triple teamed. And with that, the push is on 32-1. That score very much could start to change if plans go the way of Legion. We'll see what Minnesota's attempt is. Player 5, I believe that was Standy, trying to make, or rather, excuse me, MiDNiTE was trying to make an attempt from the front. He gets silenced. At the same time, Legion will hold on well. But given those spawns, Minnesota, they do have all 4 players grouped up. This is going to be a battle again.
Yeah, Minnesota, they just got to get out. They do not know that all the Paris Legion players are going to be spawning out towards street, so trades are going back and forth. Eventually, Scraps is able to take down 3 before all his teammates are able to spawn back up, but his teammates are spawning out. Right now, Minnesota, they do have those back spawns, and it's going to be a huge one-on-one engagement across the map between Mr. Aqua and Mr. Priesta. But Aqua is going to be able to win it, so the rotation should go in favor of Paris Legion. Minnesota are going to be able to get this remaining junk time so they can grow their lead a little bit more. But if you're Paris, you're not even worried about it. You're fighting for that rotation, fighting for that setup, and they get the job done here. So now it's time to add some more time to this clock.
Man, tell you what, if we could have saw Legion whenever those spawns did flip, right, so that they did not have the favorable spawns, but with those 25 seconds left, it could have been so solid for them. Only grabbed 17 seconds on the hill that they had the rotation for, but now they've been given the rotation now toward Fountain, and they're making it work. The Kriegs are out. The Kriegs are firing. Now we're within 10. Minnesota quickly needing a reply of some sort, and Zaptius, aware of the push, starts to line them up. Really just back and forth. Kind of, I guess you could say, somewhat of a standard hard point. We talk about how Moscow could work, my friend. Like I said, you got Muddy Hill after Muddy Hill. If you lock them down, you can quickly see a score change begin to come into play. And so what was not the greatest first 2 hills allows for Legion to take the advantage. Now coming into our final one, you're on Boulevard.
Yeah, and the only thing is that Minnesota, they're winning the engagements off the rotation. You have a couple players who are spawning out towards back bank, but this is going to be a huge engagement between MiDNiTE and Scraps. Scraps is able to win it, so that's going to spawn out his teammates closer to the hill and eventually set up that pinch as Minnesota are spawning out all the way towards P2, but Standy, he wins the one-on-one engagement in towards bank. And now, what was the pinch setup coming in from Paris Legion now is Minnesota. So now Minnesota, with 2 players spawning out behind them, only 1 player remaining in towards this bus area. They're able to eliminate him, and now eventually start putting some more score on towards the scoreboard and getting back into this game.
A back and forth game to start, and if you're Legion, at the very least, it is a much better beginning than how that Garrison started off the rip. Again, a big game for Legion. We talked about if they were to lose this, they'd go down 0-2 in this group. I want to say necessarily lives are on the line, but you could very well say at this point how competitive the CDL is. Every game, every map, every series it matters. And with their backs and somewhat against the wall, we'll now go and step aside and take a gander at the comms, given how valuable of a position this is right now for Paris. As we'll go to our Astro listening with Legion.
Nice, they're left. Coming.
Yeah, I'm good. I'll spawn P for you. I can get you left pinch. One your left pinch.
Guy plat's not peeking. Plat priest the weak. I plat the guy plat's not peeking. There's a trophy this side. There's a trophy this side. One pinch gold. One pinch gold. Yeah. Plat hurt. I should go pinch.
I'm marching it. I'm back P2.
Yeah, Eskis. Plat and Eskis. Alright, we're gonna flip. It's fine. It's fine.
I spawn it. Comms.
Well, Major, one shot.
Tree bagging it back P2.
One shot globe. I'm Premier Globe Petty. I don't see him.
He dead.
Big kills.
I'm one shot Yuli.
I'm here.
He kills him.
That's one person there. This guy's close tree.
I spawn front, guys. I spawn front.
He's mid plat. Yeah, he's
side up.
I hear you on the side up. Side up, Cindy. Weak as fuck.
I can get time.
Back window. I have a trophy on Tom. Top PD attach. I can't put it. I have your plat rush.
He only has a sub.
Top PD.
Kill his kid.
Still up there.
Rushing be front on me, dude.
Your plat's open. I gotta get side.
I'm gonna be front. Stop. I
can be front. Dead. I'm just like a plat. Okay.
Be front. Front. What's in the back? Yeah,
front there. I'm in the back. Go on. Get time. I'm
on dead. Let's go, guys.
I have all of mid.
Two front, guys.
I have all of mid. I'm rotating actually. I'm rotating. See the guy front. I'm rotating. They could be mid. They could be mid. I'm rotating.
I'm rotating now. Guys, should we get that 30? Just spawn behind us now.
Yeah, watch it low.
Talk about a back and forth hard point. You get to listen in with the comms there of Legion. And again, you kind of hear the expressions, the importance of how valuable that last hill was for them. And Dud Scraps, he tries to stay alive for as long as he can. He buys just enough time to give Paris the edge. As now we're in toward Fountain, and this time around, it is Priesta who's having to go big for the squad. He does get found out, and this could be a great chain if Paris are able to lock down the early second.
Yeah, and the only thing is, as soon as you say that, it's going to be two players from Minnesota who are going to be spawning out towards the backside. So Priest is able to take down one. The pinch is going to come in from the front, and no time is going in favor of Paris Legion. So now that completely flips on his head. Minnesota are the team that wins the rotation, are able to put some more score to try to tie this game up. All you have to do is just try to play your life in the backside. Eventually, it will be a tie game. You see all of Paris Legion committing towards that back push. Trades are going to come in, standing and attach, hitting great shots. Do they find the third onto Zaptius? They do not. So with those players dropping right there, Paris Legion are going to spawn out towards back library and should be able to get this remaining 20 seconds. But the only thing is, Priesta already set up off the rotation.
He is indeed. P-Dog is prepared. On the prowl. And how about the nice 3 in the feed there for RØKKR? The best way that you could start off a new rotation is they're going to be down by about 20 coming into this one. We'll see what they can do with that advantage given this point in the game. Really, no standout performers from the RØKKR side. Only player that is somewhat slow out of the gates is Temp at 8-16. We talk about how great of a series that he had. Despite the loss versus Atlanta, put up a 1.13 KD, one of his highest, if not his highest KD that he's had with Paris since he joined the team at the start of Stage 3. There's so many dangerous players on this Paris roster, as really with that, they will be able to overtake and slang. The team fight will in fact go in their favor. Despite the rotation there for RØKKR, really the definition of this hardpoint, back and forth, hard-nosed slang. A slobber knocker indeed, as Zaptius will be able to escape with his life, and that life in particular could come back to bite RØKKR, given the positioning, given how this next set of rotations is going to be set up. Again, Paris from one side and Zaptius on the other. We'll see if he will in fact be found out. Zaptius most likely looking for comms. And sitting on that force breed. Major Maniac spot him. Does Zaptius see the barrel of the gun? Goes for the challenge, and there it is. Major overall walks away with the trade. 150 to 171 with that fight. Minnesota are prepared for next.
Yeah, they're prepared for next, and they're also getting a lot of time off this P1 hardpoint. So now Paris Legion, they have to try to break through gold. They have to try to go through side street, but the crossfire is set up, and that's going to be another 3 down for Paris Legion. The last player alive is going to be Aqua. Don't really like the challenge, but you still have a teammate on there, still picking up some time. And with them picking up that kill right there, that's going to spawn all of Paris Legion towards the backside. So now it's all about Minnesota keeping the spawns for that P2, not dying off of this rotation. And Priesta, him answering with one Temp, unfortunately with the team kill. should allow Minnesota to at least spawn out close, but one player is going to spawn out towards all the way deep street. You're going to have 3 players from Paris Legion trying to commit towards the front. It's all unattached right now. Can he hold the push?
Big position. Again, the SMGs trying to make their way outside of light. An attached hold down to 13 HP. Tries to go to the corner, but again, it's Zaptius who wins the fight. But of course, it's Standy watching over his fellow teammate. Tosses out the nade, gives her prayer, and just like that, again, what appears to be another lead change coming in. But take a look at player 4, Temp. He's back. He's back PD. He will, in fact, be spotted, so that very well could have been disaster for RØKKR, but they are able to hold on. One last push here for Paris, and doesn't appear that it will be a successful one. Last player alive, Aqua, he goes for the challenge, but will, in fact, drop. Right around 216 to 185 should be the score as we come in toward Fountain. Last time around, Legion were able to hold it well. And a much-needed hill for Legion. A break here for RØKKR very well could be the game as Minnesota look to gear up for their first push.
Yeah, Paris Legion just have someone consistently blocking that back spawn. They cannot allow Minnesota to have that sneaky spawn towards the backside to set up a pinch. So right now, Paris Legion only being down 14 points. They have a full setup. It's all about can they hold the line and just win their first engagement battles. Aprista, he's going to open up with one. Attach with the second. Now Minnesota, they're in. Attach is going to be able to jump over the wall, and the spawns are going to be flipped. So now Paris Legion, they have to try to hold from the front. Sandy and Attach doing great work, but Aqua with better shots, able to eliminate both players. With 20 seconds remaining, neither team can win off of this hard point. They have to get over towards that street side, and look who it is. MiDNiTE, the new guy. Well, the sort of new guy. Off the rotation nice and early. Fortunately, he's going to get spotted by Scraps, but Minnesota are here first.
Paris, 217 to 217, tie up the game coming in toward Boulevard. What has been kind of really dominant games throughout our first 3. Now here in our 4th game, coming down to the wire as Priesta lays down a big kill to start things off. Minnesota in a 3 versus 1 advantage as they look to collapse on in the hill. Meanwhile, Legion now over toward the backside. Some shaky shots for Standy, but he at least is able to land the ones that matter the most alongside of his squad mates. We're able to find a few. 230, 224. Legion are going to have to go for the break. They're going to need to hold this one for a decent amount of time. MiDNiTE, the first line down. Zaptius is able to find 2. Can he find the third? He and Scraps will be able to do that, but it's Priesta locking down time in the bus, but your time is done. Scraps doing everything he can to just at least delay for as long as he can, and it will do enough to send us back toward P1. And as the dust begins to settle, Legion gonna be in a spot to lock this one up, as they'll only need 8 more seconds. A push from RØKKR is imminent, but where's it gonna come from? Are they gonna be able to read it? Attach is able to find the first and also stays alive. Attach has stayed alive, but he eventually does get found out. Players dropping from either side. Minnesota get enough bodies in the hill to at least a contest for the moment, as that will be 3 strong in the hill. The time stopped at 27 seconds. 241 to 247. Have Minnesota done just enough? Paris, they have to go for the break. There's one. There's the second. 248. Have Minnesota done it? And they have. Minnesota come away with the thrilling hard point close. Back and forth we went. Constant team changes. And a hard point to remember, but it will be Minnesota coming out as victors and walking away with a grueling series.
Man, in that final moments, that had my blood just going, man. Like, I can literally feel the hair standing up on the side of my arm. That was such an insane ending to that hard point. You had Paris Legion, who off the rotation was set up nice and early. They actually got 2 players off the rotation as well, and it was all left up to Attach and his teammate in MiDNiTE. Attach comes down from Eskies, and he's able to win the first engagement. Then MiDNiTE with the trade, and eventually it's getting contested at that point. But you're allowing your teammates to come off spawn and be able to help you in towards that middle point. And then once they eliminated Scraps from that point, you spawning all the Paris Legion all the way out towards the back of P2. Zaptius, he was taking his time, trying to go around Eskies, trying to set up that pinch, eventually gets the kill, but when he picks up that kill, across the map, all of his teammates drop, and Once he slides down Eskies, it was an easy read from Minnesota. They get that kill. They turn around, pick up the last player coming out of Golden. Minnesota, in those final moments, even in a 4v2 situation, still clutch up.
Oh, my goodness. What a hard point. What a way to close out this series. I know we said at the start of this one, Study, like, okay, you know, it's been a close series, but it's also not been a close series. Like, it's been neck and neck, but really a lot of the games hadn't been all that close. Well, there we go. We got our wish, a 3-point hardpoint victory there for Minnesota. Obviously, you see the excitement, the elation on one side, and really for Paris, I think it was what?
Let's freaking go, IKON. We hype, boys. We hype. Get hype, chat. Oh my goodness, dude. I needed that, man, just for my sanity. It was a tough loss yesterday versus Optic. But hey, to bounce back in the way that we did, the respawns are looking okay. That Moscow, I mean, hey, we're 2-5 now, boys. Let's go. We're doing it, man. Gosh, it was so nerve-wracking all the way down to the end. It was so back and forth. What was kind of like your major take from map 4 there?
Yeah, it was just the composure and how clutch Standy went down towards the end there. I will say, as it got towards the end of P4, it was about to go back to P1, I was kind of doubting things a bit. I was like, oh man, I don't know about this, because Paris was able to get quite a few seconds there towards the end of P4. And then once P1 popped, they only needed like 8 or 9 seconds, and Standy was able to come in. He got just a nice 2-piece. You could also see Attach actually right there on screen. Attach is going in and making plays, and here comes the play from Standy. But yeah, I mean, it just got kind of intense there, because if they don't end up clutching up on that P1 and it goes back to S&D Express, I think most people would agree that right now Paris is looking like a really good S&D team, and it would have been on a map that we haven't had a ton of success on since Express has entered the, you know, basically into the rotation there for S&D. So it's just a super clutch play, just awesome composure from both Attach, being able to stay alive towards the end there, and Standy able to get a 2-piece. But guys look great. They clutched up, and I got to tell you, if I'm the other teams inside of Group A, I'm not sure I want to play Paris right now. With them being so good at S&D, if they're able to get to a map 5, I think that they're becoming more and more dangerous by the day. So all it takes is to just win a respawn and then clutch up in those S&Ds, and they could be a team that could pull an upset. So if you're a Seattle, if you're an LA Thieves, I think what you were probably counting as a pretty easy win a week or two ago no longer looks that way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you said it. LA Thieves and Surge have yet to play them. I mean, Paris is starting off 0-2 now, but they've played, you know, I would say if you're looking at kind of like the power rankings of the groups, like FaZe 1, Optic 2, RØKKR 3. You never know, man. Maybe Paris can pull the upset on Optic. I mean, it's tough. It's such a tough loss. But I mean, I know, like, I saw Garrett in the chat said we almost lost. Like, yes, we did almost lose. But when you're the worst statistical hardpoint team in the league and you're finally able to eke out those close hardpoint maps, that's what we call progress, and that's what we call just looking and feeling more comfortable on that mode. The more we practice it, the more it comes up. So it looks like, hey, they're going to be interviewing MiDNiTE soon. We'll definitely get you guys back. They're not interviewing him yet. We'll get you guys back for that interview when it pops up. But for now, let's go. He's got to feel good, man. I mean, yeah, you come in, you get slaughtered by Optic yesterday. It was tough, but like, they showed what they needed to in this match versus Paris, because I do think that Paris is playing better than the 10th ranked team in the league right now, to your point. So what'd you make of like MiDNiTE's return performance? I think in this match specifically, we both kind of noted like, maybe he's not the main AR. Like, who's that? He's not playing like a main AR, and that's no shade. But like, what do you make of just the pace that they're playing at and where the roles are for the ARs in Priestahh and MiDNiTE?
Yeah, I will say, just if you look at both Priestahh and MiDNiTE, they are, I mean, they're using the same gun. So sometimes, like, saying this person's a flex and this person's a main AR and putting them into different categories, like sometimes those lines get a little bit more blurred, especially last year with how dominant the M4 was and this year with how dominant the Krig is right now. It's not like, if you take a trip down memory lane, it's not like way back in Black Ops 2 when you had a fast AR that would run the AN94 and more of like an anchor AR with the M8 where they had a burst weapon. Like, they're the same gun. It's the same gun. They're both kind of achieving the same things. It's just if Mike is on the hill and he's getting 2 pieces or whatever and Priesta spawns out, he's just going to be the person that rotates and tries to pick up those kills on Aqua as he's rotating, or Temp, or whoever's rotating for them. So I do like the fact that more times than not, especially in control, we just saw Mike just be aggressive. He saw opportunities, and rather than just, you know what, I'm going to hold down this lane, I'm going to wait for Attach and Standy to come back so then they can push forward. He sees an opportunity, he'd hit through mid, he'd shoot from people from behind over at P1. So it was just, it was refreshing to see, and I think it puts a little bit more doubt into whoever they're playing in. Is Standy going to be there? Is Mike going to be there? Where's Attach? I think you have to think about more things now than you might have had to before.
Yeah, Major Maniac will definitely play in those sneaky spots, and it seems like Priest is a little more comfortable in trying to hold those certain lanes, or making sure that the rotation gets set in fighting off any of those rotational battles. So whew, we needed that, man. Just, yeah, you're looking at the other teams in our group, you're looking at Paris, you should theoretically beat them. They have improved, but you are able to take the win today, and that's freaking massive. So I think they're going to interview Major Maniac now. I'm going to kick it back to the studio broadcast, and then IKON and I will be back to break down the future matches and let you know when we'll be on next. So anyway, let's put you over to CDL feed. We'll see you soon.
A big W here versus the Paris Legion. I got to ask you, my friend, right? A grueling series, but I got to say, myself and Stub, we had the cast for this one. We were kind of talking about how the first 3 games, somewhat kind of one-sided either which way. At this hard point, it came down to the wire. Walk me through your guys' process as you were able to lock it away.
I mean, yesterday after that loss versus OG, we kind of went back and just kind of looked over the situations that we could have capitalized on. Even in this map against Paris, we kind of started off slow, me especially, and I think we just did a good job of just working breaks and just playing as a team. And that's something that I've really been just trying to stress, is like just moving around the map together. It doesn't matter if you think you're not making the right play, as long as you're just doing it together. It's just better than just being, taking solo chows, things like that. So I think we just played collectively well.
Absolutely, man. Well, actually, you guys look great, at least so far throughout the respawns in this particular series. I want to ask you, though, in terms of the search and destroys, right? Because I know that this has kind of been a struggle for this Minnesota team in general. As of late, you guys did lose the search and destroy here, did drop it yesterday versus Optic as well. You guys got some time before your next series. Things you want to work on in that mode from a great search and destroy mind like yourself. What do you want to see different with the team in search and destroy?
Yeah, I mean, I just came back into this team about, a week and a half ago. We haven't played too much S&D together, so I've been trying to just fill the gaps and just see what kind of strats and, mid-round adjustments we can make based off what they've already been doing. And I think I'm very confident in our search and destroy ability. Obviously, that raid was just a super weird map. I wouldn't even say it was uncomfortable. I just think we weren't really taking advantage of the pressure and map control when we could with our subs. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to S&D, it's not a mode that I'm like, okay, we need to be focusing it so hard. I think hardpoint is really where we need to have our ball game, and I think S&D in a tournament setting will really come together. And we have a strong map pool in that, so I think it's just keep practicing S&D in scrims, figuring out things we can abuse, and just really just taking tendencies of the teams that we're playing in that certain match and just capitalizing on what we can do.
Now, Major, I want to ask you one last question before we wrap things up. Again, a great W for you guys here today. Now, there's been a lot of talk, of course, on the timeline, a lot of things about yourself coming in for accuracy. I want to give you the chance to kind of talk about, kind of getting this chance again with Minnesota. I know that it's kind of been a different type of year for RØKKR. Everybody's had to make roster changes, but now you're back in the lineup. What do you want to do for this team? What do you want to provide for this RØKKR team to kind of turn around what has been a difficult last few months?
I just want to win. like period, point blank period. I want to go to the major. I want to win. I want to perform really well at champs, get some revenge there. And when it comes to like any team and just what I bring to this team, I think I just bring like a consistency aspect. I think I bring a lot when it comes to S&D. And then I know I can step it up in slaying, and just me personally, I'm just trying to find that balance in between aggressive and slowing down when I have to, and that's really what I'm trying to work on. So individually.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, you guys obviously get the job done here versus Paris. A big victory for you guys. I know you had a little bit of a late series yesterday versus Optic, but you come back back-to-back series and you get the job done here. Congrats to you and the team on the victory, and best of luck throughout the rest of Stage 4.
Thank you, Landon. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, Major Maniac is indeed focused on the major. This team looking to try and turn some things around, and obviously
let's freaking go, man. I said it to you. I was like, wow, we haven't gotten to watch a RØKKR post-game interview on CDL broadcast in a little bit, man. It's been, I think on the a graphic on the main stream said this is us breaking a 3-game losing streak, which feels good. Like yes, it's against Paris, who's ranked 10th, but I do think that they have improved, right? It's time for them to improve. This is the time of year where those teams that are vying for that top 8 spot, they're making these changes, they're coming out hot, and we were able to take it today. So yeah, what did you kind of make of Major Maniac's kind of interview at the end there? What do you think, like, is the outlook for you, for the squad, like, super positive, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, that last question there on like what he's working on personally, I like the fact that he really focused in on when to push the pace and when to slow down and like what's the right decision, because so many times, and like you see it in Search and Destroy from Standy, where he'll get a kill and then he'll just be super aggressive and they'll get traded out, and then it's kind of like, well, how important was that kill if you're just throwing it away and it's getting traded out? So with Mike, I like the fact that he knows that there are times in which he can capitalize and be aggressive, but also, if he gets a kill and it puts him in a 3v2, then let's back up, let's play with our teammates, and let's make sure that we're winning those super important rounds of S&D. But when it comes to Paris overall, I will say, like, yeah, they're the 10th ranked team, and right now they're the worst team in Group A, but they have made changes throughout, the last month or so, bringing in Temp, and that put them a little bit further ahead than where they were before that roster move. And then they bring in Zaptius, and again, let's not forget, he comes from London, where London looked like they were treading water, and then towards the end of Stage 3, they were getting win after win. They were taking they were taking teams like Atlanta to map 5, and they were playing much better, and he had a big part to do with it. So I think that's another upgrade to their roster. And as this moves forward, like, Paris still has to play Seattle. My money right now would be on Paris in that matchup. LA Thieves, they're bringing back in TJ. And although last time we saw LA Thieves with TJ, they were looking much better, there's still been some changes there. They haven't had a ton of time to work together yet again. So I don't know if I know we said it earlier, if I'm one of those other squads in Group A and I haven't played Paris yet, I don't think that they're as easy of a match as they might have been before after these more current roster moves.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And so now, like, we're sitting at 1-1 in the group, lost to Optic. Optic's looking like they're on fire since Stage 3 majors. Paris improved, but they just had 2 of the hardest matches in the group. I mean, you could argue FaZe is probably hard too, but yeah, they just had to play Optic and us. So Paris had a rough week. It'll be really interesting to see how the rest of this shakes out. The other 3 teams in our group that we have to play will be Seattle Surge, LA Thieves, and Atlanta FaZe. So you want to start out 2-0. That's when you'd feel the best, obviously, coming out of this first weekend. But at the end of the day, you want to just make sure you are beating the teams that you theoretically should beat, and then anything could happen, especially now that Major Maniac is back on board. Like you mentioned, he brings a little bit of an aggressiveness to the team that we haven't really seen. Doesn't seem like anyone's playing the super traditional Maniac role and just going to the same spots and, playing those really long ranges. It feels like they're really picking their battles, and sometimes it's overextending, and it's it's not fundamentally sound, but sometimes it works too, right? Because you're able to kind of become a little bit more unpredictable in that sense. So I'm not a coach, I'm not a player, I don't know what I'm talking about, Just my observation. So we'll be back next weekend. We have a weird week next. Well, not weird. I guess all of the weeks are weird because of just how they have the schedule. They have 2 days in a row, then 1, then 2 days in a row of play for May and June. So we will play next on June 5th versus Seattle Surge at 5 p.m. Central Time. We're going to try to play as one and drown them out and just do the dang thing, baby. Let's see if we can do it, man. 5 p.m. Central versus Seattle. We only have 1 match next weekend, guys. Usually in the stages, it's, you get 2 weekends where you play 2 and then 1 weekend where you play 1 because there's, there's only 5 other teams. So anyway, we're vying for top 3 in the group. Hopefully we can get there because that would give us the winner's bracket at Major 4, which is on land, baby. I mean, Major Maniac mentioned it. Like, he's ready to get back on land, he views himself as an asset to the team, and I think they could be building something really, really good here towards the end of the year if they just keep practicing and being better together, becoming better together. We shall see. But the next time we will be live will actually be for the podcast on Tuesday at 7:30 Central. We do a podcast called The Rotation. It's myself, IKON, and Kingdom Soldier. Hear us break down, the matches, the action, look forward, do predictions, talk about the current happenings, roster changes, whatever have you. So yeah, that'll be a good time. And then IKON and I'll be back for the co-stream on June 5th, 5 p.m. Central. That's it. IKON, any kind of final thoughts, final words, anything you want to say to the people?
Yeah, just a really important dub for the team in this one. This is one that you definitely had to win, because if you didn't, then you would have had to have probably counted on a last match victory against Atlanta. So really important dub, and I'm interested to see how the squad handles the match next weekend against a Seattle squad that's probably not playing the best that we've seen them so far this year. So important match next weekend to go 2-1. Then we'll see what happens going into the following week. But overall, just squad looks exciting. Looks interesting to see, how each of the roles has transformed since the roster move came into play. And it'll be fun to see how the rest of the stage group play ends up playing out.
Let's keep evolving, baby. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great rest of your day. If you live in Minnesota, get out and enjoy the weather. That's what I'm about to go do. I'm about to go outside, man. It's warm. It's sunny. Let's do it. All right. Thanks, IKON, for joining me, and we'll catch you guys next time.